I'm so excited. Guys, welcome to the Packaging 101. Let's give a clap for Packaging 101. Cool. Okay, let's start. I'm going to have everybody just quickly introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stuart Arbury. I am Vice President of Packaging and Sales at RAMO, which is an entertainment law firm. Although I'm not a lawyer, I'm at Packaging and Sales. Who's wooing that? You a client? Oh, sweet.
Okay, cool. My name is Fosta Sar. I'm the founder and CEO of Callo, which is a new tech platform specifically to help creators and producers package their projects and ultimately sell them into the marketplace.
My name is Alan Luna. I am a producer and casting director. So I have a casting office with 2 other casting directors who I love so much. They're not here right now, but they say hi. And I'm also an independent producer, helping develop and produce film projects and some TV, but mostly film.
Hey, y'all. My name's Bash. I'm an agent at WME across film and TV. Nice to meet y'all.
Thanks, guys. We're loading. Can everyone hear me? Thank you. Thank you, guys. Okay, so before we get to audience Q&As, which obviously is the most important part of this whole thing, let's have a little chat for a bit. How about that? Cool? So I guess, first off, by the way, thank you for joining us. We'll start with some moderated questions, followed by a time audience Q&A using the audience mic. After the panel, please join us in the theater lobby. Don't forget to silence your cell phones. A beat for that. Cool. And a heads up that this panel is being recorded in photographs. So if you don't feel camera ready, maybe, scoot out the room. We introduced the panelists. Amazing. Okay, so guys, we're going to play a game here. You're not going to be ranked from 1 to 10, but you better show up the person to your left. So if there's no one to your left, there's no one to show up.
You're going down.
Okay. What elements truly make up a package in 2025? How does it go from just an interesting idea to something that one of you guys would actually take seriously? We can start all the way on the right because he knows he needs to prove the guy on the left better. Go for it.
I think, like you said, it starts with a really good idea. I don't think I take any package seriously unless the story, unless the characters, unless the plot devices are all really there and are all really like shining through. Because I think a bland story with a great package is still a bland story, and so it really does all start with story, and then thereafter, of course, come the fun pieces, right? The actors, the directors, the other pieces, maybe music. I don't know. I think in today's day and age, there are a lot of like musicians that help a package like rise to the top. But yeah, the fun pieces are the creative elements at the top.
Yeah, that was a perfect answer. So we're all screwed. But
Telling you, it's a game.
I think for me, to add on to that, I think momentum is also very important. I am sent projects regularly in different stages, some with some money in, some with cast already attached, some with just a really great script. And from what I've seen, the films that get made are the ones where everyone that's already on board, whether it's a writer, a producer, a director, is like all in and is doing everything they can to ensure that the project advances, holding each other accountable in a very respectful way, of course, a very efficient way, and collaborate with one another and lean on each other. I think for me on projects that have been successful, everyone is pulling in resources within the team to ensure that the film gets to the right actor, the film gets to the right financier, distributor, etc., in order for it to get seen and ultimately made. So what I really value in a package, no matter the stage, is a team that is very committed and is treating it very serious.
Yeah, also screwed. I love that. No, 1,000%. I think I come at this maybe from a little bit of a different lens. I've been a buyer, but then I've also, now am on kind of like the support side of the packaging, side of the business. And I would say on the buyer side, whenever looking at a project, it's like what makes something feel rare, right? And like a marketplace that's like really, 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 I wouldn't say necessarily saturated, but there's like a lot of stories out there that kind of feel the same. So what makes something feel sexy? What makes something feel like that gem, right? That's like, oh shit, I will never see this again. I gotta get on, right? I always think about it like, what's the why now moment, right? Like as you're building, I think something that I would say is you're not just building for like today in 2025. This project will come out 2026, 2027, 2028. So like what's that universal theme that's going to carry into that why now moment for then? So like everything in terms of the strategy of like how you make it and how you build it is around that sexiness, around that rarity. So if it's like a musical crossover, if it's like, someone in the digital space that has, some value and wants to come onto the project. Again, like just think about it from the perspective of like, what makes this rare? What makes this unique? What makes this sexy? And like always be thinking about that as you're building.
I love all your answers. What makes it rare? What makes it special? I also definitely agree with Alon about momentum. Momentum can be fickle, and I was just listening to a podcast this morning about a movie that like came together 12 years ago and fell apart, then came together 3 years ago and now is in theaters. Can I try something real quick?
To the left.
Not you. It does involve asking the audience. I want to put someone on the spot who's willing to raise their hand, and I'll repeat the question. You don't even know what the question is yet.
I'm very enthusiastic.
You're a lemming. I love it. Who wants to take a shot at just a stab in the dark definition of packaging? You can go. You raise your hand, and now you know what it is.
Packaging is kind of putting everything together to pitch and sell your work.
So the response is packaging is putting everything together to pitch and sell your work. It's a very good answer. It's a little bit broad-based. I'm going to kind of, just because I don't know the mix of people in here, but I'm curious if people would agree with this. Where I work, we look at our defined role in terms of helping people with packaging and sales in sort of two different categories. There's the creative packaging, which is, yes, good idea, good script and whatnot, good deck, but really what it means is like, okay, well, who's your actor? And if you don't have an actor, how castable is it? Like, how do you see this moving from just like script and idea to like a business prospect, which means like these such and such people are attached. And then the other side that we talk about is business-oriented packaging, which is what does the financial plan make of? If it's just straight up sell it to Sony, that's fantastic. They're fully financing your movie or co-producing or co-financing. But if it's something where you're raising money independently, it can be like, okay, what's the budget? Do you have anything in equity towards that budget? Do you have a state you're going to shoot in and now you're going to qualify for your rebates? So we kind of parcel it a little bit more. I know it sounds dry, but this is how you take the dreams and turn them into reality in terms of who can you attach to your project that will make it more attractive to a financier? In other words, like movie stars or cool director and whatnot. And then if you are financing it or doing a financial plan, what is that actual plan? So that's how we kind of look at it. So,
By the way, Stu has hired me, so I can't say
That's
he's
true.
done anything wrong.
are you sure about that?
So I mean, it is my job to tell you what I think.
That is true.
So, okay, cool. So I guess we also remember, like, we have across the board. You guys, before we continue, do you mind saying again where you work and what that place does? So you can go that way.
Sure. So I'm at RAMO. It's an entertainment law firm. It's been around we're in our 20th anniversary this year. We're actually just up the street across from Sony. And first and foremost, it's a law firm. Oh, thank you. First and foremost, it's a law firm. So we do production, legal, financing, rights, clearances, trademarks. Like, go to our website, you'll see the entire slew of legal that we do. We represent companies like Imagine Entertainment. We do work with Skydance. We do a lot of work with Fremantle. We do scripted and unscripted. We do series. We do features. We do podcasts. Packaging and sales started at the firm about 15 years ago, founded by a woman named Tiffany Boyle, who's still the head of the department. And essentially we are, in addition to all the legal services we offer, we'll get incoming clients or even existing clients that, they've launched a couple Sundance movies. Now they're trying to launch the next one, but they need help with the financing. Or they've done a lot of feature films and now they're moving into episodic. So what's kind of the Venn diagram of packaging for a series versus features? So that's sort of the quick answer in terms of what we do.
Yeah. So my name is Fossa again. I'm the founder and CEO of Callow, and we're kind of like the new kids on the block. We, at the base of us, we're a tech company, a tech platform that is community-led through and through. But essentially what we do is we help creators and producers build, manage, and sell their projects. So starting off with build. So what does that mean? Typically packaging, right? When it comes to building a team. So if you're a director, you need a producer, or if you're a director and not a writer, you might need a writer. And so we help build those teams first using our platform, but also we have what we call human curators that really help and guide the packaging process as well, that you can also work with. And we match you with the right person that really cares about your project and essentially helps you connect all the dots. When it comes to managing, we have our platform that really provides tools, everything from like contracts, so like collaboration agreements and option agreements and shopping agreements, to actually being able to send tasks to your team. So like, you know, maybe Stuart and I are working on a project together and we're trying to meet a milestone. And so I assign him a task, he assigns me a task to make sure that we can create velocity in that project. And the last thing that we do is we help connect the dots when it comes to actually selling projects and finding homes. So whether that is, you know, setting up a project with Sony or setting up a project with MRC, a financier. So we'll help find, you know, great projects, their homes as well. And so we're across the board. We're across 28 countries now. I mostly spend my time in London these days, but we're really across LA, New York, and London as well. So yeah, a lot of things. So I'll stop here, but that's a little bit about what we do.
So I have a casting office, and I'm a casting director, and that is a very specific position, obviously. Together with my partners, sometimes it'll be like one of us or two of us or three of us on a project, and we are hired to help shape a story, right? The difference with my position as a producer is that it's not just, I don't just focus on cast and talent. I also focus on a bunch of the other stuff that we're talking about, where we're looking for a director, we're looking for financing, we're looking for some polish on a rewrite and figuring out how to get the funds for them. By all means. So as a casting director, I get hired by networks and by streamers and by independent producers to cast their projects. And that's really cool. That's really fun. It's the easiest part of what I do because the films are most of the time already financed. So I just come on board and I help them matchmake. Obviously, so much goes on because, however many times you've seen a show or a film and you're like, that person didn't fit. Maybe the person that did fit the most wasn't available, right? So there's so much problem solving and casting. Now, as a producer, I wear the hat of a producer, and a lot of what I do, because of my casting background and my relationships with agencies and management companies, and a lot of production companies as well that also act as financiers that hire me for their shows and their films, I get to go to them and sell them projects. I've been hired by Lionsgate in the past. I sold a film to Lionsgate this year. As a casting director, I was hired by them, and now as a producer, I put together a film with them. And I think it's a really interesting position and experience because I think cast really helps build confidence in financiers and distributors and whoever can help you get your film made or your series set up. And so as a producer, I come on board, and one of my main objectives is figuring out who is right to help us get this film greenlit. That is also a position of a casting director, but the experience in the hiring process is different because for a casting director to really take your project seriously, you need to be financed. But if you're looking for a casting director to help you get your project financed, most of the time it doesn't really happen because it's just really hard. So that's kind of what I do. I divide my days and my weeks with doing both. I actually have like 3 films this year with RAMO Law in different stages. One's in production right now, Pedro Pan. They're pretty awesome.
Steve Shapiro.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, great people. But yeah, that's
Can I say one thing though, Claire? Because you were like, "Oh, casting director not helping of the package." Having a casting director attached to your package, no studio is going to give a C about. Sorry,
100%. Yeah,
but a great casting director who comes aboard a project in an early stage can be invaluable with navigating to the WMEs of the world in terms of the in and outs of not just who you're going after, but this person's locked in for this amount, but now you're going after someone else at the same agency. They're going to trade. Wait, what's the like? Great casting directors are invaluable. It's just the name itself isn't like something that sparks a studio.
For sure, and like a casting director can't come in and like help you get greenlit. It doesn't really work that way. But they can help you with ideas, and they can help you, utilize their relationships to get this in front of an actor and in front of an agent or manager. It's a lot of work, but it's all like the way I work is by all means, all hands on deck. Let's try to get this made.
My name's Bash again, and I work at WME, and I'm an agent in film and TV across both the domestic and the international landscape. And so the way that I like to think about what an agent, and I think more broadly a representative, does is we're sort of the support and executive function of so many of our clients, whether they be writers, directors, producers, financiers, studios, etc. So a lot of that is jumping in with our clients at the very earliest stages of an idea from the moment that they even think about it. Sometimes they'll call us and be like, I have this idea, what do you think? And, I might have the intel that so-and-so is working on a very similar idea, or multiple studios are developing an idea in that landscape. It's going to be tougher than not to get that project off the ground because there's already so much momentum and or velocity behind those other projects, right? Or that's a great idea, or your way into that idea, I think, is what makes it unique oftentimes, right? And so it's jumping at the very earliest stages with our clients and then helping put together a plan from drafting, pitch after pitch or draft after draft of a script, all the way to getting it to the right producers, the right studio to help bring in further elements to the larger package, overseeing that process all the way through the financing stage, and then eventually through the execution and production phase, and then eventually working with all the parties that have now come aboard this project from the very earliest day to now, and supporting a distribution function and figuring out who's the right distributor for this. And when we found that distributor, how can we jump in with our intel, with our resources, with our knowledge base, and support the P&A and the marketing and the distribution of said project and getting it out there into the world, whether that be a festival first approach or whether that be a theatrical first approach or a streaming first approach or a combination of all three. So like I said, I think most plainly and most basically, we're the support and an executive function for our clients.
Vouching hard for WME. Great team. Dan Rack, Kelly Cannon, great people.
We got
best
some good
people.
folks. Thank you.
So I guess that's a great thing. So, correct me if I'm wrong, packaging creates confidence. And think about if you're, thinking about selling a house, right? If, you've owned a house for 30 years or you've owned a house for 10 years, you've owned a house for 3 years, and you're trying to decide if you want to sell it to the market or not, right? And let's say you have 30 houses in your back pocket and you're trying to decide, is this market ready? I guess, other than your intuition, what are kind of your nuts and bolts trajectories of like, is this ready to go out to the market? How do I feel about taking a risk on my relationships? Because so much of this is relationship based, right? And you guys as representatives are trusting. How many people in the audience here are creatives? Put your hand up. Right? We have a ton of creatives.
Who's like the 2 people that did not raise their hand? Give yourself shit. You guys are creative.
Also,
too.
like, come chat with me after. I need some help. Anyways, so the question is it ready to go to market? Right? Is it ready to go to market? Who wants to pipe in?
I think what I'd say is that, like, I think in the packaging conversation, it's also important to know when not to package, like when the idea just in and of itself is worth it.
Love this.
You know?
Thank you.
I do think that sometimes things can be over-packaged as well, where you just put so many elements into this particular thing that now all of a sudden the end destination, whether that be a buyer or a studio or something of that sort, is like, well, I have no say here. Like, I have no way to put my own fingers into this thing, because I promise you, to your point, the two people that raise their hand and think they're not a creative, you are a creative, quite frankly, if you work in this business. And as an executive, you have a creative function of figuring out what other elements, come aboard this particular thing and help get it out there into the world. And so I think it's important to have that conversation oftentimes with yourself and with your partners to figure out, okay, are we doing what's best for this project? Are we doing things in service of this particular project, right? And so I think that's a very important conversation to just have day in and day out as you bring forth your ideas to the world.
I'll just add on that, you can, I don't know how many people here have seen, a million announcements on Deadline of this thing, I have this big person, I have that big person, right? And ultimately it doesn't go. So there's an alchemical process to it. And also everybody wants to be part of the process. So if you finish the process before the process even begins, it's difficult, no? I guess, how does that work in the casting world for you, Alon?
How does what work?
Casting of when you're
I don't
casting
know.
something
What did I
that's
just
in the
say?
packaging. When
I'm
you're
gonna drop the
casting into
mic.
something, it's a packaging stage. It's not like a movie. It's not set up yet.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I think it's hard. I mean, I've been a part of films that have fallen apart many times because for whatever reason. There's always a different reason. But I think my focus has always been to support artists, again, who are willing this film into existence and will do anything to get it made. And when I meet artists that are that intentional, I've seen films where I've been a part of films where we want to make the film for 10 million and then we end up making it for 750K, and that was a prime example of someone saying man, this film's dead. I'm not going to make it how I want to make it. So, but I don't want it to die entirely. So I'm just going to make it this way. And it ends up being a sweetheart film, which helps them then make a film later on because they got this film all the way through. That was the one. I mean, that's an example of the film we sold to Lionsgate. We made it for under $1 million. And with my experience trying to cast artists and trying to get actors on board and getting no's left and right, I mean, it's something that really happens, and it's really difficult. But sometimes, a good creative team will pivot and say well, maybe we can't make this in LA. Let's look into making this in Kentucky, right? For obvious reasons, Kentucky wants an industry there, so they have a great tax incentive. I'm not going to mention the obvious reasons, but so it's all right, how can we do this creatively? Is what I've always experienced. But I've also seen friends that I really love and adore have these Deadline articles of cast announcements and then the films don't get made, which has been just a very, very real experience. And other times friends have their Deadline articles released with cast announcements and then with no money in, and then financiers go to them and be like, hey, I really like those actors who do you who's financing this.
Yeah.
So there's so many creative ways and so many ways to pivot, and really you just have to go with the punches and find solutions.
I think on that topic too, I think the strength of your package is also the strength of your relationships and your connections, right? And if you only have one agent, for example, that's working on the project, yes, you might have the resources of that agency, but ultimately, maybe your package might end up at UTA or CAA, or maybe it's a combination of different places where your package starts to come to life. And so I think it's also really, really important to have an agnostic approach to the way that you build a package and create strength within a package, working with different people across the ecosystem overall to be able to bring in new, fresh ideas of how this can come to life as well. There's been a ton of different projects that are like maybe the same story, the same people coming on board, and those projects seemingly get made. But then there are a ton of different projects that are new and feel rare and feel fresh. And then it's like a smaller budget, and then it just makes more economic sense. So I just think that is also really, really, really important to be able to look at, okay, how do I again make this feel rare, make this feel sexy? How am I working with the best people? Because this is going to be a moment in time. It's going to be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So just making sure that you're also looking at all of your resources and taking note of that.
Yeah, if I would piggyback on that and then sort of tying back to what Bash said about like, oh, you don't want to like necessarily overpackage. Yeah. If there was a recipe of what would guarantee success every time, everyone would do it. And like you'll see like the most packaged project get passed on, and then you'll see like we're seeing like more spec scripts sold this year. You know, there's an uptick in that, which I think is a very good thing. I love metaphors. I'm going to adjust yours a little bit because I think it's important.
Please. This is what a good producer does.
I don't think that it is. You're not if you've got scripts, right? You're not selling 30 houses. You're selling 30 blueprints, right?
Yes. Exactly.
And then like,
Studs.
so if it's just a script that you have, you essentially like have a blueprint, and people will be like, how come no one wants my blueprint? So then if you have a director, if you are the director, then it's sort of like, okay, you're a blueprint plus a construction company. Now, is it a brand new construction company? In which case that the foreman's going to have to crazy sell you on their ability to do it. Is it an established production company? And sort of circling back to the whole, there's no right or wrong. You have to just do your gut check. Is this a package thing you really package, or is it something you just go with as a core idea? I remember back in my like assistant, or I was a creative executive studio days, I'd be looking, my team would be looking at like 30 to 50 projects a week. You know, I was reading a lot, but not that much. But the issue is not that most of the things circulating were bad, nor was the issue that a lot of the things circulating were great. The issue is that most of them were fine. You'd read a script, you'd evaluate it, be like, okay, it's a good action thriller, good concept. Maybe if these people attached, it could be great. Maybe, but the issue is like everything was at this fine level. So then any producer that reads your project and might, whether it's Sony, whether it's Alon and whatnot, even if they really like it, they're now going, okay, so what is the next steps on this stage? How does this go from great prose on the page, great blueprint, to something that actually moves forward? And just having that thought, both in terms of, you know, like I'll talk to really great but like kind of new writers, and I'll be like, this is a really great script. Who do you see in the lead role? And they can't like, you know, they can't pick it out of their head. If you've written something great, or you're going to write or direct something great, even if you have no connections, have a point of view of like, this is our Jason Statham role, this is our Emily Blunt role. Then it shows that you're developing something that then Bash at WME can be like, okay, great, it's the Monday morning meeting. I have something for such and such who just fell off of whatever project. So.
I think that's great. I guess I have a question here. How many people have projects they want to get made right now? And how many people believe that you're kind of in the, if you were building a home, you kind of have like the studs up and the woods up, and now you just got to like find the actor, find the money. And how many people believe they're still in blueprint phase where they're still figuring out like where it goes and how it goes? And how many people feel like they have a house that's built that's ready to sell?
I think a house built that's ready to sell in this metaphor means finished film, and you're looking for distribution.
Yeah, but there are people that have that. So I guess, look, we got a hand up right there. We got a smile and a hand up. Let's clap for a smile and a hand up. So I guess if I was going to throw out the questions right now that are on here, I guess the thing that I'm taking from all of this is it really comes from the seed of the creative. Correct? Every momentum comes from the seed of the creative, right? It takes a lot more than that, but everything has to come from, because the thing that I keep hearing is rare, right? I keep hearing the word rare. Yeah. You guys have said rare a couple times, right? So it takes a lot more than just the Steve Carells of the world, the Jason Stathams of the world, the Lionsgates of the world, the whatever, the money of the world, you know, the Aviz of the world. It really takes this rare thing in order to eclipse anybody's understanding, right? It's the art market.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about having a vision, right? Like every project is a company, pretty much, and you have like even. I pitch all the time for, investment for Callow or for new customers or for, new people to be partners for this new venture, this new vision that I have, right? And so every single time I do that, I'm trying to pitch a blueprint, sure, but I'm also trying to pitch this idea of a new story, right? Of a new story of an audience finding excitement about the project that I'm building, right? And so like ultimately at the end of the day, it's like, do you have a vision that doesn't exist yet? And can you deeply communicate that vision where it brings other people on board? And so every single time you speak with someone, whether it's a new financier, whether it's an emotional producer that needs to come on board, whether it's a cast attachment, whether it's, an agency coming on board, every single person that you speak to, you are actually convincing them to come on the train with you, to be on this vision that you have for a new way, right? A new story that does not exist yet. Like that is the goal. Like you guys are creatives to be able to have to introduce people to a new way of life. That's what I like to say, right? That's why we get into this business of art and culture, right? We're trying to move culture forward with the stories that we tell. So a package ultimately is getting people on board and convincing them. And so, yes, it is about a rare story. It is about momentum. But really, ultimately, I think that it is about the creative being able to showcase why things should be different through the stories that you tell. And I also think too, like having such a strong producer is so important. I like to say that most creatives, especially early out, first time filmmakers, they need to have what I like to say, an emotional producer. They're the ones that are coming in.
I was going to ask what you meant by that.
By the way, that's unbelievably brilliant. Like I feel like that deserves a clap. Like it's just the way that you think about it. It really is. It's such a process.
It's a process. Emotional, and by the way, emotional producer is essentially someone who you can cry to and laugh with, and also at the end of the day be like, okay, we're doing this or not, right? Like you're telling them all of your secrets about how you feel because it's so hard. It's so hard, right, to will this thing. And so to have someone who's you're deeply connected with, who is a friend, right, but also is going to be in this hungry together. It's an emotional thing. So it's not just someone that you come on and like you see them weekly or bi-weekly for a meeting. It's like no, we're in the trenches together. So that's why I call it an emotional producer.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I have a project with Ramo, and Elsa and Tiffany are two of my closest friends in the world, and I'm so lucky that I have that with them. And like. Stu and I are BFFs as well, and we can hang any time. But I guess Bash, from the agency perspective, are you taking calls when people don't have financing realistically if you don't know them?
That's an interesting question. I think that there is there's a massive volume. Right. And so
yeah.
I think for me, so much of the time I have to filter out that volume by figuring out how the particular project is coming to me. So, if a producer that I trust or a producer that I've worked with or a producer I admire, tells me like, hey, this is the one to read, this is the one to focus on. Even without the financing, 100%. I would say that 98% of the projects I work on start without financing.
Yes.
Right? And so every now and then a call will come in and be like, I've got this great script, and by the way, I've got half the budget. And that half the budget usually always goes away, before we get to the place in which the money is there. So all to say is that, like, yes, I am oftentimes reading things that don't have financing, but I think for me, because of the volume, I have to really look to references and I have to look to trusted sources to figure out, is this one worth my time? Is this the one that's going to, inspire confidence in talent, for instance, right? Like, I mean, in today's package first world, I do think, I do think that like the right director oftentimes is the thing that I'm always looking for, right? Like, you can't just have any director directing any project, like the, God bless his heart, but like the director of like the original Transporter is probably amazing. Who is it? Stu, I feel like you know.
Is Louis Leterrier he's number 2?
I don't think he's the
right?
original.
I don't know who the original Transporter.
Might be Luc
director.
Besson. I don't know. Could be Luc Besson. I don't know. Anyway, Louis Leterrier.
Justice for
who I
Valerian in the
love.
City of a Thousand
Louis
Planets.
Leterrier, who I love, is also not going to maybe inspire the type of confidence we hope for and we want in.
This is recorded, by the way.
I know
Bash,
it is.
So I
I
don't
know
if
it
these
is.
are
But
clients.
I know it is, and I like. And
It's
I like
okay.
Louis,
They'll get
but
on
I'm
a
saying-
call and they'll duke it out, and they'll make the next movie together. It's
I
creative
love Louis,
harmony.
but like Louis not going to go make maybe Nuremberg, which just came out this weekend, right? And so I
Jamie
do think
Vanderbilt.
Jamie Vanderbilt, client. I do think that that might not be the first thing that he moves toward. It might be his ambition and might be something he wants to work towards, but it's not the first call I get. I'm like, oh yeah, Louis Leterrier makes sense for this, unless Louis Leterrier has, of course, a connection to it or something of that sort that like helps illuminate the project and helps bring it forward.
But
Lots
can
of Louis
I
Leterrier
push something
today.
on your because
Yeah.
so WME is at a massive scale,
Yeah.
right? Like there's essentially no disrespect to any of the other agencies, and like my wife's a lit agent at a smaller agency, but like there's 3 massive
a
agencies.
great lit agent.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Shout
you.
out Eva Miller.
Just
Thank you for
making
watching
sure
the kids.
we all know.
I'm curious how you evaluate if it is a first-time director. Is that more important than ever that it's got like Ryan Reynolds is backing this person or something like that? Like, does it help if you? Because I'm assuming there's a lot of aspirational first-time directors in this room, and the way that you often get your thing launched is either it's like micro budget and you're essentially self-financing, or you are like buddies with like Pedro Pascal and he's like, sure, I will show up. Why, is someone here doing a Pedro project or what?
Stu will take the project if Pedro's involved, by the way. Just saying.
But I'm just curious. I'm just curious about in how you evaluate is because there's a different. We can talk about Louis Leterrier
Yeah.
and Luc Besson, but like then there's the breaking through director.
I think it depends, right? Like I think that yes, of course, like if you're a first time filmmaker and let's just say a Ryan Reynolds or a Pedro Pascal or something of that sort is attached to your project because you're close to them, then that's going to help bring in the other elements of the package we're all talking about, right? And that's going to help get you there. But if you don't come with any of that, then it really is about your attachment, your story, the other soft skills and or hard skills that you bring to the project. So for instance, I think we're seeing in this action heavy world, post John Wick, we're seeing so many like stunt choreographers, for instance, break through because they bring a certain skill set to the project that helps elevate the project and make it feel more prestigious, for instance, right? And so I do think that like those other elements are very, very helpful. But for instance, I didn't come through film school. I come through economics, and what I will say is that for so many of my clients and for so many of my first clients, I've now been in this 12, 13 years, but for so many of my first clients in those early days, I would look to people that had experience outside of our business. So, I represent a former spy, right? And he was a spy for 10 years, had level 1 clearance, whatever that means, He had all this
Again, this
crazy
is being
experience.
recorded.
He speaks, yeah. He speaks multiple languages. He had really amazing stories, but his path to espionage and his path out of espionage, I thought was so amazing. So much so that like that first script that we went out with and then we then sold for him to write, was something that he could truly speak to and nobody else. Right? And so what are those skills? What's that knowledge base that you're bringing to a project that's going to help make you the right guy for it?
I'm gonna bring it back to Alon and an interesting thing. I had a conversation with an actor, and I know she'll have no problem with me bringing her up. Katie O'Brien, who was the second in Love Lies Bleeding, and she was also in Christie. If you guys haven't seen Christie, I think it's out now.
I think it's out today.
Amazing. Katie's an absolute talent, and Katie came from being in the police force for many years and is kind of interested in telling stories about like real female strength, like crazy. I mean, I don't know if you guys should all see Love Lies Bleeding, which is a WME client. And I guess in terms of when you're trying to get people attached to projects without financing, because a big part of, I think, what Proof is trying to do is connect, ideas and dreams to reality, and reality takes money often. So I guess how are you connecting the dots between talent and dreams?
It's very case by case, and a lot of the times who the director is, who the writer is, who some of the producers are really matters. How the package looks as well. like I've had an experience where a cinematographer helped attach an actor because the cinematographer that we had.
Who was it? Do you mind us asking?
Oh, it's
DL?
yeah.
Cool. DL.
I just don't want to give names because I didn't get like their okay.
That's fine, but I think that's such an interesting point.
Like I co-produced a feature earlier this year that's an adaptation of a short that won the Grand Jury Award at Sundance a couple years ago. And so I think because even like that type of accolade, a lot of reps were really interested in reading the feature. And it took like 3 years for the feature to get made after the short premiered. But there was a large vote of confidence because of the short. This director, man, I mean, he's just like pure artist, but he really, he set up meetings with some like pretty big actors. The film hasn't been announced, so I'm not going to share any names, but he was able to convince the director, after we set the meetings, was able to convince the actor to join and there say, I'm in, right? So
without financing. Amazing.
Yeah. And just because of his, I mean, obviously the script, the accolades, there's a lot of things, right? And, one of the things that these film festivals do, like Cannes does this, TIFF does this, Sundance especially, they really support their alumni, right? So he had a short film there. It went through, the feature-length version went through the labs.
Great.
And, having those deadline articles written about, the film and the artist, the director, writer, really did help sell the confidence. That's one experience. That's a recent experience, just this year. But like, it took like 3 years for that film to get made after the short adaptation.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant.
And I think something that I've been thinking a lot about that especially with having so many different creatives come to Callo and producers come to Callo, starting their second and third, typically, features or television series. And a lot of what I think I tried to share with them very early on is like, when you start packaging, you're going to be doing this work for free for at least the first 6-7 months, right? The goal is to be able to not do that for 6-7 months or a year, right? The goal is to be able to try to get this done within 3 months or within 8 weeks, right? Like, again, think about it from the perspective of like, you're working on this project. The longer you go, right, of like without packaging or through the packaging process, then the later then you get paid, right? So you want to be able to try to close the gap as quickly as possible when you are packaging. So even when, let's say, you start writing your script and you bring on a producer on that idea, then having the producer start working and start trying to bring the pieces together, try to start, getting into your pitch meetings, right, with bringing on attachments, try to be thinking about this at the same time. I know it's a lot to do, but your goal is to be able to try to package, because it can get drawn out. It can take years. We know that. We've seen it. We've all been on the other side of it. Again, like, I get it, but trying to do this simultaneously is your best bet to making sure you close the loop. Because our goal, right, always, the more projects you make, the more money you make. So if you're spending a year or 5 years on one project, you're going to be delaying your earnings. So like, try to be thinking about that as you're building out your slate and having diversity in your slate, right, as well, in terms of the types of projects, to be able to balance it out. Whether you're creating a film, a television series, you're working on a brand project, you're doing something in the digital space, making sure that you're always thinking about that as well as you're, building confidence with investors and trying to kind of see your entire slate and bringing people along for the ride.
Before we go to audience Q&A.
Just real quick, just one thing to add to all this, and it's wonderful. And this is no disrespect to the agents. If you don't have financing and you want to go after an actor, if you can't approach them as a producer, that can also be a way in. So like, movie star's agent, they'll pay attention if they hear about a great script out there without financing, but their job is to find money for their client. But like, there's many actors that like have a production company and have an exec, and the incentive structure is more like, oh, find the next great filmmaker, like a great indie actor who is a gem of a human being is like David Desmalchian, who he's not like a Tom Hanks level, like going to give you $100 million opening weekend, but he will attach and then get movies like Late Night with the Devil over the hump and whatnot.
So I guess before we go to audience Q&As, the most important thing is that this instills confidence in your ability to get it done, right?
Yeah, that's true too. Because if you can have the hustle to put a package together, it then portrays to a financier that you're not going to crumble under the extreme stress of your 12-hour days.
I mean, the truth is none of this is easy, and every person on this stage has had an idea and got it done, whether they wanted a job at an agency, whether they wanted to be a producer, whether they wanted to start a new company, whether they wanted to cast a movie. So I guess with that in mind, let's pass it over to the audience. I'm going to be Mike Girl. I'm going to start here, and then we're going to pass it back. Mike Girl.
My girl, my girl.
Hi there.
Hello.
My name's Sean, and thank you guys for taking the time to be here. You're all very important to the industry, making sure things are getting done, so I appreciate that. I'm a first AD and a line producer, so I do a lot of breakdowns of scripts and start the initial budgets and everything like that to help out with the packaging or the deck and everything like that. And I talk a lot with these creatives, and I'm like, you need to start thinking about it from a marketing perspective, because if you're going to get into these pitch decks, they will be asking you these questions. Why is this marketable? Why is this going to be the next big thing? How are we going to get return investment? All these things. But I'm also telling them, be prepared to be said no a lot and be prepared to move on. Is there any other big advice you have for new people that are going into the industry that they should be aware of? We heard a lot of it, but anything else that you want to talk about?
I'd say, going into any sales conversation, for example, is really overwhelming, I would say, very anxiety inducing. And so I totally get that. But the way to be able to, make sure that's not like that is by just having your sales materials tight, right? Like making sure everything is very, very tight. That pitch deck, the visual, from a buyer perspective, before I even got to a script, I was looking at decks. I was like, do I like this or not? Do I like the visuals in this or not? Is this deck going to get me to even taking the time in my weekend read to, add another script to my docket? So making sure that sales materials are really tight, making sure they're beautiful. There's so much competition. Take the time to make sure if you need to add services for a graphic designer onto your budget, then do that, to be able to really make sure that all of your materials are tight, so that when you are able to go into that pitch conversation, people have the excitement, right, that you see for the vision of the story. So that's what I would say.
Wait, I have one thing. What was your name again? Sean. I'm so happy that you're here, because I totally forgot about something that is in direct relation to you as a line producer and as an AD. Breaking down the scripts, breaking down creating a schedule, and breaking down how much the film that we are trying to set up is going to cost is so important. And that's something that I don't even think we talked about. But one of the things in a couple of my various films historically, and even right now, we have a line producer helping us with the budget, even if we don't have the full budget raised. But you're so important, because when we are going out to sometimes private investors, when we're going out to, the money people, they want to know, how much is this going to cost? Show us how much it's going to cost. And I think that's kind of important as well. I mean, it varies on the project, obviously. And I have a film. I have two different films right now with a line producer, different line producers. But one has worked with the California Film Commission in getting the incentives, and that was a really large reason why we wanted to have him on board, is because he knows how to navigate, and he's received the incentive And that was a really important thing for our investors, is how do we stretch the money that we have here. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is when you're going out to investors and we're going out to financiers and you're asking them for money, one of the questions they're going to ask you is, how much is this going to cost and why? And can you show us? And at that point, having a top sheet, having a budget is very important.
And the flip side of that, the ROI, we were talking about this before the panel. 10 years ago, you at least had more concrete numbers when essentially everything was either box office or DVD sales. Now so much is behind the hazy veil of like, it just went to streaming and whatnot. But I would build in, like, whether it's in a deck or just being able to think about things in the past 5 years. If there was box office, great. If there wasn't box office, can you put, like, if you want to do like an erotic workplace thriller, then talk about like, oh, Fair Play sold to Netflix at Sundance and that was a $20 million buy. Like, that's sort of the, those are like the beacons that a financier can be like, oh, cool. They think it was like a $5 million budget or less. K-pop Demon Hunters.
It started on Netflix, but now they're releasing it in theaters and they're making huge money from that.
I would say that is probably a longer conversation. But what I'd say very quickly is like that was still $100 million movie that Sony made. The whole would K-pop Demon Hunters have been a hit in theaters thing is such a yo-yo back and forth because it, would it have debuted to a $70 million open weekend? I think K-pop Demon Hunters 2 would. I don't know if K-pop Demon Hunters 1 would have. But now you might see a lot of, I'm sure you'll see Amazons and all these places wanting their K-pop Demon Hunters because the ROI is not just sold to Netflix. I can't go anywhere without hearing them. It's propping up the album. It's, the merch. So if you have something that you're pitching as the next K-pop Demon Hunters, then how do you like articulate the DNA of that in whatever it is that you're building?
So we have about 10 minutes or a little bit, 5 minutes left. So I want to make sure we get through as many questions as possible. And there's going to be a mic right up there. So if you'd like, hand raised in the middle over there. Yes, you're perfect. Yeah, if you don't mind going down to the mic.
As she gets to the microphone,
yeah,
I just wanted to say,
do what Stu says. Hunger Games. Go up to the mic.
No, you can ask your question first. I'll get there. It's okay.
I feel very short and on the spot. So I know you said there's no right way to package something. But my question is, we have a film with our production company, and we're kind of at that like chicken or the egg. Do we get the cast, or can you not get the cast without financing? And we're at that packaging stage where we have to figure out, do we add another producer that adds value? Do we get a casting director so that we can have the cast, but do we need financing first? So what is your recommendation for a film that's kind of like stuck in that chicken or the egg? We have a script. It was a finalist at Austin Film Festival. We have great pitch deck. We have a lot of the things, but we're kind of stuck of where do we go next with how to get financing or cast? And which one's more important?
I'm curious, have you tried yet? Have you like gone out to cast or anything of that sort yet?
Kind of. Where there's like a realm you could go. You could get the Aubrey Plaza, which is what our dream would be, or, a lower budget for like a smaller actor. So that's kind of like what we're gauging. So we haven't like hired a casting director yet to get like the higher level.
Yeah, I think it is an interesting chicken or the egg scenario. I mean, I do think that in this world, I've been telling people that my view of the industry is that we are a smaller business than we've been in a long time, right? But we still are a robust business. There's still business to be had. There's still things to be done. There's still sales being made, so on and so forth. I do think that for so many of those like A-level actors or around there, so much of what instills confidence in them are the attachments to the project. And so I do think that like maybe bringing your project to, another producer that might have some of those talent relationships or might have financier relationships, because it seems to me like maybe you don't have the financier relationships just yet. Right. And so, maybe working with somebody that can help approach those financiers or that talent first. If there's an easy call to be made to said talent, then that might be the way to go. But I do think finding somebody that can help you have some of those first conversations, and then from there you can sort of figure out. I do think, adding a casting director will be very helpful. Of course, you're not going to get a good casting director unless you can pay them something, right? And so I do think finding another attachment that'll help you have those conversations is helpful.
I would just say if you believe in the script, it's got the Austin credentials and whatnot. Just this might sound like vague. start getting as many people to read it as possible. Get it in as many hands as possible. Because even the people that love it, 98% of the people that love it still aren't going to be able to move forward on it for one reason or another. They have something that kind of steps on it. They have, they've already allocated all their spends for the year, right? But just start getting it circulated. When I was an exec, there was a woman, one of my really good friends who's an exec. I don't want to out her name or anything, but we like once went like, here's our priority list of what we read. And it would always be like new project draft of something we're working on, because you have to turn that around in like 24 hours. Occasional super hot spec script that we know is like, okay, we have to have an opinion on this for our bosses. We can pass, but if it sells and we didn't have an opinion, they'll like heads will roll. But the third thing that we would always prioritize would be the recommended script from a friendly exec who's like, I loved this, I can't make it for whatever reason, but you should read it. I'd be more interested in reading that than like the formal submission from an agent, because the formal submission from an agent, it could be great, but they have an upside if I say yes. Many execs are reading a lot of scripts that they just can't move forward on for whatever reason, go like, oh, I'm not the right person for this, but I can't wait to see someone else makes it. So just start getting it read. And like, there'll be like, I've been at companies where like we read a script in like June, it's just a script, we're passing. Okay. 3 months later, now it comes back around because like Michael Keaton's attached. Okay. Now we're, just have it start circulating. And the best way to prove it is it's not just about this one project. Try to have something new as often as possible, because at some point something will get made and then it'll prop up the ones that were near misses like over the years.
The other thing I was going to say right before you got to that microphone is that it's also important to know when to stop. Like, it's important to know when to like put something on the shelf for just a hot second and go pursue something else, right? Because I think that so many careers end before they can start because you are so hyper focused on that one script that you believe in, and you might be the only one that believes in it right now. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard to be an emotional producer on many different projects then.
Totally. It's true. But I think you have to have a sense of like what is working and what isn't working. And the marketplace just might not be responding to a certain story element, or might not be responding to a certain element of darkness or something of that sort, right? And so I do think it's important to know when to like go focus on something else, because maybe that's the thing that gets to a certain place and allows you to come back to that thing. I mean, we've all probably seen it so many times. I can't even count anymore, but we've seen it so many times where a client is so adamant on working on one thing, and we've tried, and it doesn't work. And then all of a sudden they write that spec that now all of a sudden, brings them to the studio and gets them, gets them a multi-studio bidding war going on something or the other. And now we can sort of like bring that in the back door and say, hey, we've got this thing and it's a really amazing story. And then that's the thing that gets made.
Well, then how do you tell the writer director we need to shelf it? Aren't they going to be unhappy with that?
I think they have to be prepared to have that conversation. Otherwise, they're just not emotionally, they're not emotionally at that place to be a director, quite frankly.
But it's not like, don't work on the project for 2 weeks and be like, oh, and I sent it to 5 people, right? And like everyone said no. Like, no. Yeah. Like, give yourself time and grace.
Yeah, we've had it for a couple years now.
Exactly.
You also you have to create your own momentum. And even right now, in like just from what you said, which I think is pretty universal, is you have some various pathways to go. And it includes going out to talent. If Aubrey says no, be ready. Who's your plan B? Who's your plan C? Who's your plan D? Who's your plan E? If your producers that you love that have worked on something similar, that have seen a film through all the way, and you're having a meeting with 10 of them, having a meeting with 10 of them doesn't mean you are required or obligated to hire them. Maybe they just want to champion you and give you some perspective and some guidance. But if you're in a position where you want one of them to come on board and they say no, then what? What's your plan B? What's your plan C? What's your plan D? You really have to like exhaust your various plans as a collective with everyone on your team, and pull your resources together to push it forward.
So before we mic drop, because time's up, I just want everyone on the stage to give one really like strong piece of advice and wisdom, just like literally a one-liner about something that if people in the audience are struggling with the idea of getting their project made, because how difficult is it for everyone's mental health to feel like you're bashing up against the wall all the time, right? Hands up or not. But ultimately, I think every no is the greatest yes, because all you need is one yes.
Yeah.
I will also say, don't be shy if anyone wants to reach out to us and have a further conversation. I know we have some clients and partners in this room. I'll just sort of double down on something I think I was just saying, which is like, it's about not being fixated on the one project. Think of yourselves as like Thomas Edison. This is gonna again. I hate them. I'm such a metaphor. I do. It's really really lame. Thomas Edison probably created hundreds of things that did not work in addition to the light bulb, right? Like the modern day entrepreneur. I mean, like YouTube started as like a family album sharing channel. Photoshop started as like cleaning up scratches on film, you know? And I would say like what Bash is saying, and you know, to your point, like it's not about like just be like, I'm developing a slate. Most of the biggest companies in the world right now, like Sony's sitting on how many active development unproduced scripts, you know, 2,000, 3,000, maybe more. So just be prepared that this means it's not about launching that project incorporated. It's about launching like me incorporated. And you do not like didn't Mike White hatch White Lotus in like over a weekend because he needed something to shoot? And I'm sure there's plenty of things he's working on for years that haven't moved forward. So just quantity, it's not like quality matters, but quantity is important.
Yeah, I would double tap on that. I mean, I think right now, especially with the industry changing so much and evolving, yeah, working on one project is just not it. Like, you got to be able to balance your slate. Like, even if you're a director writer, you got to be able to say, like, look, I'm working on all these different things, but I'm focused on these top three, right? And those top three, there should be a through line, right? So that ultimately creates a slate, a theme for the slate, a theme for your company, your LLC, whatever. If you're a producer, like, the goal is to be able to attach yourself to different projects by different creators across the landscape. Again, like, I would double tap in, yes, film, but film is the hardest out of all of them. Film and television. Film, television, yes, but look at what's happening on the internet. There's social shows being launched on the internet right now. They're getting massive, massive, massive dollars from brands to be able to integrate, right? Like, look at the brand world. See where you can get film sponsorships from brands. If you're interested in that, like, come talk to me. I'm in the vendor hangout. And so, like, all of these different things just take a creative plan, but a business plan. They end up actually just being the same. So really being able to look at that. But there's so much opportunity, even if it doesn't look like that. You just have to talk to the right people for it.
It's time's up in the theater, guys. So just a quick one-liner.
You're going to get more no's than yeses always, no matter what. Don't be discouraged. Find your community. Your community will support you and get you in the right door.
Yes.
There we go. And
then
our lastly,
authenticity is the key. And then something that you said earlier, Stu, networking. You get, like, I'm not saying make, you know, inauthentic relationships, but I do think getting your script out there, talking to as many people as possible. This is a relationship first business, and if you don't have relationships, you're not going to make your project.
let's give a clap for everyone on the stage. Thank you guys so much.